joining us today. We appreciate it very much. Today, we're going to talk all things recruiting, job boards, and talent. We have a lot to go through. I'll try to keep it high level, and then of course you can always connect with us if you want to go deeper into something specific. I'm Shannon Burkle. I've been with Axios HR for 18 years this month. My background is in both human resources as well as staffing. Most of what I want to talk to you about today is on how to attract the passive job seeker. So we'll just dive right in. First, I just want to take a moment to recognize how drastically recruiting has changed. I was recently sitting in a strategic planning session, and I was observing a discussion, and I was hearing words such as artificial intelligence or passive talent, predictive analytics. And as I sat back and reflected, I was shocked on how different it was in 2000 when I entered this space. When I entered this space, I was laughing at myself. I was issued my first cell phone. I had no robust ATS system. Everything I did was on paper. And most of my spend was with booth newspapers. It's just changed a lot. And so it's okay to have to take a step back and look at your recruiting strategy. The pace of change is extremely quick. So before I kind of dive into what I really want to share, why don't we start off with our first polling question. Is your recruiting strategy in-house, outsourced, or a combination of both? And I'll give you a second. All right. Well, it doesn't surprise me that half of you use a combination of both. That's a common practice when I'm meeting with small to mid-sized businesses. They select some positions that they just want to insource, and they select some other positions that they absolutely want to outsource. So the first thing I want to talk about are job boards. So job boards are not a recruiting strategy. Often when I'm meeting with a small to mid-sized business, our discussion goes like this. I can't find the talent I need. I say, well, we can help. And they kind of say, well, I'm all set. I use Indeed. Indeed, or job boards like Indeed, are absolutely dead. Job boards can be effective in a high unemployment market, and job boards like Indeed should be one very small part of your strategy, but it is not a strategy. It is just one tool and one way to attract talent. Job boards mostly have active job seekers on them, not passive job seekers. An active job seeker can in minutes apply to the new 20 jobs that were posted that morning. Often they're applying very quickly, completely blindly. And if you actually look at like consumersaffair.com, what you'll find out is from a client perspective as well as the candidate perspective, people are often very dissatisfied with their experience just interacting through a job board. So to summarize, job boards are not a strategy. I'm not saying don't ever use them. I'm just saying it's one small part. And absolutely, if you're using job boards, also make sure that you're not just posting a job and having all the candidates come to you. That's one part of a job board. The other part is to proactively search. And if you're not using both parts, then you're not even using the tool effectively in the first place. So I'm going to pause. We'll have our second polling question. So are job boards your main recruiting source? And I'll give you a second to respond. So it looks like 75% of you feel it's not, your only strategy, but there is a portion of you where using job boards is your only strategy. So in the next section, I would just challenge you to think about using multiple components to your recruiting strategy. So today's sourcing strategies and tools, there's hundreds and hundreds of options. I'm just going to talk about a couple of the options. So first off is a career website. So passive job seekers today, when they hear about a job opportunity from their friend or a family member or online, like a job board, the very first thing that they're going to do is go to your company's website. And not only are they going to get a first impression from your website, they're going to go immediately to your career website because they want to apply through that. They do not want to be just a number in a job board. And I know for small to mid-sized businesses, this can be challenging, having a very robust website and even having a career website. So you have two options. You can tackle it yourself, and there are some resources that can really help you that aren't that expensive to get that done. Or two, you can partner with a recruitment firm or an outsourcing firm, and you can actually piggyback off their career website, which can be helpful at times as well. Second component I want to talk about is an applicant tracking system. Having an applicant tracking system is absolutely critical today. Organizing your talent, making sure you have enough pipeline, understanding what openings there are across your company is critical. There are a ton of different app tracking systems to choose from. Obviously, you have to select the one that's right for you and the volume of hiring that you do. But it's critical to the process. And again, if you have very low volume hiring, maybe it doesn't make sense to purchase an applicant tracking system. But again, you can partner or outsource that function if that makes more sense for your business. Job boards, we have talked about, being one component of the strategy. Social media. So right after that passive job seeker hears about your awesome job opportunity and goes to your website, the very next place that they're going to go is social media. So they're going to go to your Facebook, Glassdoor, Indeed, Twitter, YouTube, and they're going to check you out. So I guess I'm asking you to think about, have you been to your Glassdoor? Have you been to your Facebook page? Have you gone on your Indeed page? Make sure that they are branded well, they represent your organization well. And the reality is, most of this can be done at little to no cost at all. But realize that your passive job seeker is going to go to your career website and then to all your social media pages before they even decide whether to apply for the role. There's two more components I want to talk about. First is predictive analytic tools. So there's a lot of tools out there now that can help you attract passive talent. They can help you get connected with passive talent, know how to talk to passive talent. This is a new skill that recruiters need. Recruiters often are used to talking to active talent only. So there's some training that you have to give in this space as well, but there's tons of tools out there that can help you attract passive talent using predictive analytics. And finally, we are in West Michigan, and West Michigan people love to help each other. And so we're always referring our friends or family members to open job opportunities we're aware of, which is great. What I would suggest is taking that a step further. Are you compensating those people for referring talent to you? Do you have a way of tracking it? We recently purchased a software platform that organizes all of this for us. And we have 40,000 people in this platform sharing jobs, referring people, engaging in our open job opportunities. That might be too robust for you, but I would at least suggest having a program and compensating people for finding great talent for you, even if it's your own employees internally. So another polling question, does your current recruiting strategy have all of these components? 75% of these components? Half? A quarter? Or really you're not using any of these strategies and tools? All right, results are coming in. Well, they're consistent. It looks like all of you are using half of the strategies that we talked about. So I would leave you with this. Using half of these strategies is still probably going to get you mostly active talent. If you start using all of these components, that's really when you can start to find passive talent. So I talked a lot about software tools, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I enjoy more talking about the strategy, and you can figure out the tools. But I do just want to mention, here are some of the tools available. So in the sourcing space, you have AI tools, job boards, referral platforms. I named a few here just to give you an idea of popular ones. And then as you move through to the engagement stage of talent, I listed some predictive analytic tools, screening, video interviewing. And if you were to select one tool from each lane, you're looking at about almost a $60,000 investment. So when I'm consulting with small to mid-sized businesses, what I suggest they do is take a look at their workforce plan. You know, how many positions do you think you fill annually? And that tells me whether you have enough open positions where you could purchase these tools and hire a recruiter, or does it make more sense for your business to outsource this? Now, businesses also that do a lot of volume still outsource. There's other reasons a company might decide to insource or outsource. But if you don't have enough hiring to even have a return on the investment of a recruiter and on the investment of these tools, well, then you do have to look at outsourcing if you want to get the talent your business needs to grow. I've outlined on the next slide here the new age, is what I call it, recruiting process. And at first glance, it probably doesn't look that different to what you, have been utilizing. But I want to point out a couple key differences that are very, very important. First of all, the why. When you have a job and then there's an active job seeker looking, the why is not as important. They need a job, they have these skills, you have a job, it requires those skills, and boom, there's a match. But when you're out in the market and you're seeking passive job seekers, the why is so important. Why should they talk to you? Why should they meet with you? Why should they even think about leaving their current company to go work for you? So I'd say before you even decide to post a position, outsource the position, you have to think about the why. Writing a job description and posting a job, those are obvious process steps. What I would challenge you with is don't take your internal job description and post that. Make a job ad that sells your business, sells the opportunity, gives a compelling argument as to why someone currently working would take the risk to talk to you, potentially leave that job and join your organization. It is very important that you're putting out job ads, not internal job descriptions. The other two things I would make sure I do before I start meeting with candidates is to do a full comp benchmark project. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You could handle this internally. You could buy software that does it. You could outsource it. But you have to understand if you're within market, and you have to make some choices around compensation and benefits, especially if you're looking to attract a passive job seeker. They're often going to need to have a benefits conversation with you. They're often going to need to understand why they would leave this compensation package and join your organization with this new compensation package. So you have to be clear about that from the very beginning. And two, what are the performance outcomes you expect, and what are the rewards for that? Passive job seekers want to know, what do you need me to do in the first 30 days? And then how will I be rewarded? And then what about the next 90 days? And the first year? They don't want a picture. A passive job seeker doesn't want a picture of 5 years from now. They want to understand, when I start day one, what does my onboarding look like, and what are you expecting me to accomplish in those first 30 days? So you and your hiring manager and your business needs to be aligned on that before you start talking to talent. And the last comment I would make is on talent assessments. We actually do a lot of assessments internally at Axios HR, but I would just make sure that whatever assessment or testing or screening that you're doing, that it matches the job. You have to be able to see what comes out of the assessment and be able to relate that very specifically to the job that they're going to be performing. If you're just doing assessments and tests and screening just because you always have, or because it's available, the passive job seeker is going to pick up on that, and they're not going to be happy with their process. And you want that whole process and their onboarding to be a very positive experience. And the last thing that I'll touch on is talent retention through manager training and development. Today, talent is gold. You have to be talking to your frontline managers, your mid-level managers, and your executive team about how talent is gold. During the recession, unfortunately, a lot of businesses had to make some really tough decisions. They had to cut their training and development programs. That was one of the tough decisions many of them had to make. And then since the retention, management has grown in complexity. So I'd ask yourself, have you provided your managers all the tools, resources, training, coaching, development that they need in today's competitive environment to retain your talent? Have you given them all the right tools in their tool belt? Ask yourself, did you potentially, during that downturn, take your best doers and promote them into management, and then didn't give them any training or development? Is your greatest asset maybe your greatest liability? If you haven't given your managers the training development they need, I highly suggest that you find a way to tackle that. Most good training development programs have the components listed in the slide. So there's a training on how to manage employee and manager expectations. How do you ensure an employee has a positive experience and they start their first day off on the right foot? Does your managers know how to train on new tasks and procedures? Do they understand prioritizing? Do they know how to handle conflict? Can they handle challenging employee situations? The things I just mentioned aren't easy. You have to provide people coaching and insight on how to be successful in these areas. We recently were working with a small business, and they told us that their turnover was very high. They were a manufacturer here in West Michigan. They said their turnover is really high. They were having low productivity, and their scrap rate was starting to increase. Through facilitated training, some valuable team exercises for both core leadership and frontline managers, in just 6 weeks, very little time and very little financial investment, they decreased their turnover by 15%, increased productivity by 10%, and decreased scrap by 2.5%. If your managers do not have the tools and the coaching to do this well, it's the number one thing right now I can suggest to do within your business. So it looks like we have our final polling question. So just a simple question. Are you offering management training and development consistently and effectively? And I'll give you a second to respond. Okay, that was quick. Everyone responded and 100% said no. So just know that small to mid-sized businesses, we're not alone. Every business is having this challenge, and there's absolutely, like I said, very easy steps you can take to have success in this area. So before I wrap, why don't we open up for any questions? So if you could just type your question up in the toolbar, that'd be great. Okay, so the first question that came in is, how can I attract passive talent from my competition and still be West Michigan nice? Okay, that's a really good question. You know, this is a tough one. We have a lot of great small to mid-sized businesses here in West Michigan, a lot of businesses that offer talent, great benefits, great employee perks, a great culture. I guess I look at it that you have two choices. First choice is, do you need that talent so much that the risk of, you know, disrupting the market, it's worth it? Most people probably wouldn't choose that path here. Path two is you can completely outsource it and you can have someone else help you navigate that. That would probably be my suggestion, but you know, that's a really tough question. And it looks like there's one more question. Could you go a little bit more in depth into the supervisor training? Yeah, absolutely. So most of the training that I've been part of is 3 to 6 hours of a time investment. So that's not much. Usually you can get this work done, I mean, less than $10,000, but potentially based on your group size, much, much less than that. So little investment. Usually there's an expert facilitator. And so you don't have to worry about internally who's going to lead you through this. There is experts in this that can lead your leadership group and your frontline supervisors through this process. And then usually there's all the ones that I've been part of, there's a component to a personality assessment, because one of the main things that you have to be aware of is what are all the personality types of those on your team. That's usually the starting place when I've been part of these trainings. And then it kind of, you know, the next couple hours are more on the tools, resource, the actual coaching and development. And then usually it wraps with an emphasis on how just talent is gold, and then how to operationalize all the things that we talked about is usually how it wraps. Thanks for that. Okay, it looks like those were the only two questions. So I'll leave you with this. All of this webinar, the white paper, and all of our other resources are on the Axios HR resource page. Please go there. After this webinar, you will get an email with the webinar and the white paper and some other things. And if this is your first time attending our webinar, you'll get a subscription to MIBiz. And one of you will be a very lucky winner of some tickets to Stars on Ice. Thank you so much. Thanks for spending time with me this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your day.